Hello and welcome again to class. Thank you so much for staying tuned. I want to appreciate you for joining us all the time. You've been with us. Thank you so much for being while we had the previous series on poultry health, poultry science. And now we're beginning a new series which has to do with nutrition. Now, we decided to look at it not from a narrow perspective, but now from a broad perspective. So it's not going to be poultry nutrition, it's going to be animal nutrition. Now, I'm looking at starting with the minerals. Now, I may not have started from defining or telling what minerals are. Sometimes when you want to do certain things, you want to include perfection, which is good, excellence is perfect. You may discover that you are not getting started at all. But let's just start from somewhere. If in any case, somewhere down the line we discover that we need to do this or do that, we're going to get to attend to them. Thank you for understanding. So we'll go straight to the point. Today we have calcium, dietary calcium. Now, what do we have to expect on this? Dietary calcium, first of all, has this as the scientific symbol, Ca with ionic 2++. That is 2 plus sign, in which case it has lost 2 electrons in chemistry. Now let's not go there. The atomic weight is 40. Atomic weight number 40. The first 20 element is number 20, and the atomic weight is 40. Now that's for those who understand that bit of science. Then what do we expect on this? A brief history of calcium, and then sources of calcium, function of calcium, deficiency symptoms, absorption, metabolism, and then we'll wrap it up on it. Now let's go straight. The first is the historical perspective. Now, for everything that we look at, there's always a history about it, because anywhere it starts, people may just consider the history. Now, sometimes some people may say, oh well, it has started before this time, but let's see from calcium. Calcium started in the first name. The name is calcium. It started from the Latin word calx. Calx meaning lime. Now, the ancients consumed lots of calcium without really knowing they were consuming it. The ancients, they drank milk from their, from agrarian society. They reared animals, so they drank milk, and they were taking lots of calcium, which helped their bones and helped growth. Now, they got it from there. And then from spring water from the springs. Now, they drank water from the springs, which contains dissolved mineral calcium. Dissolved calcium they were consuming. And that's good for their health. So they got it from the milk from the animals and from their spring water. Then, in the 19th and 18th century, scientists started discovering that there's this particular mineral that is contained in milk. They started giving it a distinct, seeing it as a distinct element, in which case they now linked it to the health of the bones, that this particular element has something to do with a healthy bone and healthy teeth. Now, going on, by the 20th century, it became established that calcium was very essential for the avoidance or prevention of the ailment called rickets and others associated with the bone. Now, older times, now when people begin to get older, begin to have ailments, we'll get to that deficiency symptoms, osteoporosis and the others. That is common of loss of calcium. So by the 20th century, it became obvious. Now, I want to talk about 20th, we're talking about 19 this, 19 this. From the 18th century, we begin to see like 17 this. 19th century, 18 this. Now, the sources of calcium quickly. Now, how do we get calcium? I've talked about this already. Now, those who started the ancients started in milk, and which is still the most abundant and abundant source of calcium on earth. That is dietary calcium, not just calcium. It's usually in milk. And also when you process milk, you get cheese. So you get cheese, and also you got other dietary products depending on how they are produced. Now the second aspect, the second place where you have the second source is green leafy vegetables. You begin to look at spinach and the other leafy vegetables. they are calcium rich. Now, why is it that they are calcium rich? Calcium easily dissolved in water and carried in runoff. They also seep into the soil and are lodged there. You plant your leafy vegetables and fruits. By the roots, through the roots, they absorb these minerals from dissolved water, as the roots via absorbed water transported via the xylem. It's also transporting dissolved minerals, in which case calcium is very, very soluble in water, is also carried along. The same calcium that is absorbed when eaten in your leafy vegetables, you're also consuming dietary calcium. Thank you. So we also have fish, especially those from edible bones, the salmons and the others. Bones themselves, fish, calcium is good for a healthy bone, not just for human or for animal, even the animals. The bones of the animals that are consumed are good sources of calcium. Now, we also see number 4, legumes and nuts like beans. Example of the beans, cowpea. We have the bambara nut, we have the sesame. Another beans is soybeans. What is called soya beans or soybeans in the United States, soya beans, and the others. Also have lentils and almond. Then meat. The meat that is consumed is a good source of dietary calcium. Now, consuming it would add to calcium in a person's diet. Then source of mineral water. Now, some mineral water, for example, we talked about spring water. Now, these sources are good sources for obtaining calcium for your animals and also for you as a person. So, when we're talking about animals, of course, humans are higher animals. These are ways in which we'll get calcium for consumption for the livestock or for humans. Now, for the length of the video, we'll call it a day for now. The next class will continue. We've already dealt with the brief history and the sources. From the next class, stay tuned. We'll look at functional calcium, the deficiency symptom, and hopefully the absorption mechanism. Thank you so much for staying tuned. Let's see you in the next class. Thank you.